Take a deep breath. Not a breath to survive, but a breath to release. Release the tension, the control, the endless mental rehearsing of everything that could go wrong. Because in that single breath, something begins to shift. You step out of the known, out of the story, out of the struggle. You start to remember that the universe was never waiting for you to figure it all out. It was simply waiting for you to let go. Let go of the timeline, let go of the outcome, let go of the idea that you have to be the one doing all the heavy lifting. Because the truth is, you are not here to force the miracle. You are here to become the environment where the miracle can happen. And that only begins when you stop gripping so tightly to the how, the when, and the what. You've been taught your whole life that control is power, that the more you push, the more you get, that hustle leads to success. But in the quantum world, that logic doesn't apply. The quantum doesn't reward effort. It responds to frequency. And when your frequency is rooted in fear, in lack, in the desperate need to make something happen, the field mirrors that energy back to you. You attract more resistance, more confusion, more delays, because you're telling the field through your emotions and energy, I don't have what I want. And so the field says, very well, let's give you more of that. But the moment you let go, that is the moment everything begins to shift. Because now you're no longer sending a signal of separation. You're not broadcasting from lack. You're aligning with trust. And in that trust, you activate the intelligence of the quantum. The field begins to reorganize around your elevated state. Possibilities that were once invisible begin to rise into your awareness. Paths you could never have planned begin to reveal themselves. Why? Because you're no longer in resistance. You're in coherence. Letting go is not about apathy or indifference. It's not about abandoning your desires. It's about creating the internal conditions for those desires to manifest without interference. Think of it like this. The tighter you grip the sand, the faster it slips through your fingers. But if you soften your palm and simply hold it gently, it stays. The same is true with your dreams. The same is true with your healing. The same is true with your transformation. In this work, we talk often about coherence. Coherence between the heart and the brain, between thought and emotion, between the conscious and the subconscious. Because when you are coherent, you are aligned. You are not broadcasting chaos into the field. You are broadcasting clarity, gratitude, wholeness, and in that signal, the field begins to respond, not to your effort, but to your state of being. So how do you get there? How do you let go when your mind is screaming for answers and your body is addicted to worry? You go inward. You sit with the breath. You enter the stillness. Because the present moment is the only doorway to the quantum. It's the space where all potential exists. Not the past you keep recycling. Not the future you keep rehearsing. But this moment, right here, right now. Meditation is not just a practice. It's the preparation for becoming no one, going nowhere, and doing nothing. So you can become someone new, go somewhere greater, and do the unimaginable. When you enter the void, when you detach from your senses, your identity, your timeline, that's when you become pure consciousness. And in that space, you are finally open to receive. You are not forcing the field. You are merging with it. This is why intention must be paired with surrender. You can visualize the future. You can feel it. You can rehearse the elevated emotions, but then you must let go. You must hand it over to the field. You must trust that the intelligence that created galaxies, that beats your heart and breathes you in your sleep, knows how to deliver what you've asked for, and often in ways your logical mind could never anticipate. This is not magic. It's biology, it's neuroplasticity, it's quantum law. The field reorganizes matter according to your energy. Your personality creates your personal reality. Change your state, and the world around you begins to change too. But you cannot do this while checking the results every 5 minutes. You cannot tap into the field while clinging to your doubts. The frequency of desperation is not the frequency of creation. The moment you feel lack, You are no longer a match for the thing you want. And the moment you feel abundant, whole, and worthy without the thing you want, ironically, that's when it starts to come. Letting go is not giving up. It is stepping into alignment. It is saying to the universe, I am ready to be surprised. I am ready to receive in ways beyond my imagination. It is relaxing the body, softening the heart, and turning your energy into a magnet rather than a wall. Because the universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in vibration. And it responds not to what you say, but to what you are. So the real work is not in pushing harder, it's in practicing presence, cultivating gratitude, rehearsing the future until it feels more real than your past. And then, walking through your day as if the thing you asked for has already been done. Because in the quantum, it already has. Your job is not to create it, it's to become the version of you that it belongs to. Letting go is opening the door to possibility. It's stepping out of the way so the greater mind can take over. It's releasing the illusion that you ever had to do it all alone. You are not here to be the architect of every detail. You are here to be the frequency of your future. And when that signal is strong, clear, and elevated, the quantum field begins to match it. So let go of the need to know. Let go of the pressure to fix. Let go of the fear that says, it won't happen unless I make it happen. Because that is the voice of the old self, the version that believed in limits, in struggle, in separation. But you're not that person anymore. You are evolving into a new energy, a new identity, a new reality. And in that reality, things come to you, not because you chase them, but because you become one with them. The universe has been listening all along. It has heard your thoughts, felt your emotions, and received your intentions. Now it's your turn to listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Pay attention to synchronicities, to sudden ideas, to things lining up without effort. These are signs that the field is moving, that your energy is reshaping the matter around you, that what you once wished for is now reaching for you. Letting go is the final step of creation. It's the moment you stop being the doer and start becoming the receiver. It's the shift from force to flow, from thinking to knowing, from hoping to being. And so I'll leave you with this. When you release control, the quantum takes over. When you step back, it steps forward. And what it brings will always be greater, more aligned, and more expansive than anything you could have planned. There's a space inside of you that remembers, not because it learned something new, but because it remembers something ancient, something that came before your name, your story, and your need to control. It remembers that you are more than a body, more than a mind, more than a personality trying to predict what's next. And in that remembering, it whispers something powerful. True creation does not come from force. It comes from surrender. You see, we've been taught that surrender is weakness, that it's a last resort when all else fails, that it means giving up, letting go of power, waving the white flag. But that's not the kind of surrender I'm talking about. I'm not talking about surrendering to fear. I'm talking about surrendering to the field, the quantum field, the invisible, intelligent, organizing energy that flows through everything, that connects all things, that holds within it every potential you could ever imagine. This field does not respond to your effort. It responds to your energy. It doesn't require you to know how your future will unfold. It simply requires you to trust, to step out of the known and into the unknown, because the known is the past and it will only ever produce a predictable future. But the unknown, that vast, sacred, unexplored space, that is where miracles are born. That is where you meet possibility. That is where you become something greater than your circumstances. And this is the great invitation, to surrender to the unknown, not with fear, but with elevated emotion, with trust, with gratitude, with love. Because when you step into the unknown with fear, you collapse old realities. But when you step into the unknown with gratitude, you collapse new possibilities into form. And that's not philosophy, that's quantum law. Every time you surrender with a high frequency, the field begins to reorganize. The particles start dancing differently. Life starts aligning with your new signal. Because the field is always listening, not to your words, but to your state of being. And here's the truth. You were never meant to figure it all out. You were never meant to hold the entire blueprint of your life in your hands. You were meant to connect to the intelligence that already knows. The intelligence that breathes you, heals you, grows you, and moves through you when you let it. But it can only move when you stop resisting, when you stop clinging to your old identity, when you stop demanding certainty from a universe that speaks in infinite outcomes. So what if the unknown isn't the enemy? What if it's the most sacred space of all? The doorway to the life that's been waiting for you, not when you plan it, not when you control it, but when you align with it. Because surrender is not passive. Surrender is the bridge between thought and manifestation. It is the moment you hand over your intention to the field and say, I trust you to deliver this in the perfect time, the perfect way. It is the moment you stop fighting and start allowing. And in that allowing, everything changes because your body relaxes, your mind softens, your heart opens, and now you're no longer broadcasting from stress, you're broadcasting from coherence. And when the brain and heart are coherent, you become a powerful magnet for the unknown, for the unimaginable, for the miraculous. But only if you're willing to sit in the space of not knowing, only if you're willing to be in the void. Because the void is not empty. It's full of every version of you you've ever dreamed of becoming. It's just waiting for your signal, waiting for you to become so surrendered, so trusting, so aligned that you stop needing and start receiving. So let yourself not know. Let yourself release the timeline. Let yourself drop the need for guarantees. And instead, wake up every morning and become the energy of your future. Feel it, live it, embody it, and then hand it over, surrender it. Step back and let the field take over. Because the moment you do, the intelligence of the universe begins moving in ways you can't yet see. Synchronicities show up, people arrive, opportunities find you, but only because you let go. You didn't micromanage, you didn't overthink, you aligned. And that alignment is the signal the field can respond to. So let go of the illusion that your mind has to know everything. Let go of the belief that surrender is failure. Let go of the idea that the unknown is dangerous, because the unknown is where all creation begins. It is the place where your old self dissolves and your new self is born. It is the silent space between thought and reality. And if you can just stay there, just for a moment longer than you're used to, you'll feel it. The expansion, the intelligence, the invisible hand, moving things into place. Because the field is not far away, it's inside of you, around you, moving through you all the time. And when you surrender to it, you remember who you really are. Not a person trying to survive, but a consciousness learning how to create. And this is your true power. It doesn't come from knowing. It comes from trusting. It doesn't come from control. It comes from coherence. And the more you surrender, the more the universe responds. Because it's never been about doing more. It's about being more. So the next time you feel uncertain, don't run, don't shut down, don't grasp for the familiar. Sit in the unknown like it's sacred, because it is. It's where your future is waiting. Not out there, but in here. In your surrender, in your trust, in the frequency you emit when you say, I don't know how, but I know it's coming. That's the moment the field begins to work. That's the moment reality begins to reorganize. That's the moment you stop being a victim of your life and start becoming the creator of it. So take a breath, step into the unknown, and let the quantum show you what it's capable of. Not when you control it, but when you surrender to it, because that's where your power lives. Not in knowing what's next, but in trusting that the field already does. You've been taught your whole life that the more you control, the safer you are. That order, plans, and strategies are the tools for success, that if you just hold on tightly enough, nothing can slip away. But what if that very grip is the reason things aren't flowing, the reason you feel stuck, anxious, or blocked? Control feels like safety, but in truth, it's often fear disguised as logic, and fear contracts your energy. And when your energy contracts, your access to infinite possibility shrinks with it. Because in the quantum field, the signal you send out determines what you get back. And if your signal is based in control, manipulation, or desperation, then the field responds accordingly, with resistance, with delays, with more uncertainty. But if you learn to let go, if you learn to trust, something extraordinary begins to happen. Because the less you control, the more you align with the natural intelligence of the universe. The quantum doesn't respond to your hustle, it responds to your frequency. And the most aligned, coherent frequencies are born not from force, but from stillness, gratitude, and presence. Most people try to control because they're afraid that if they don't manage every detail, they'll lose everything. But fear is a low-frequency state, and low-frequency states keep you bound to predictable outcomes. The truth is, the more you try to control reality, the more you're reinforcing the belief that you're separate from it. You're sending out the signal, I don't trust this intelligence to take care of me, so I have to do it all myself. And that belief places you in survival, in overthinking, overplanning, overdoing. But creation doesn't happen in survival. Creation happens in expansion, and expansion only begins when you release. The quantum field is not moved by your effort, it's moved by your alignment. And alignment means your thoughts, emotions, and energy are all telling the same story. That story might say, I am whole, I am abundant, I am open to something greater. Or it might say, I'm afraid, I'm unworthy, I need to control this or it will all fall apart. And the field listens to that. It doesn't hear your words, it hears your state of being. So ask yourself, what signal am I broadcasting right now? Is it rooted in trust or fear, in expansion or in contraction? Control doesn't feel heavy right away, it feels responsible. But over time, it weighs you down. It creates a constant inner pressure, a belief that things only move if you push them. And that's exhausting, because it's not your job to move every piece on the board. It's your job to become the energy that attracts the right moves to you. You are not the puppet master. You are the signal. The universe isn't waiting for your plan. It's waiting for your energy. And when you shift your energy, you shift what you attract. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing from a different state, a state of alignment, a state of presence, a state where your heart and brain are coherent, where you feel elevated emotion and clarity at the same time. In that state, you're no longer reaching, you're receiving. You're no longer chasing, you're attracting. Because now you've stopped acting from the old belief that says, I need this to be okay. And instead, you're broadcasting, I already am okay, and more is on the way. Trying to control the outcome is rooted in lack. It says, this reality isn't enough, and I need to force it to change. But letting go is rooted in abundance. It says, I trust that something greater is already unfolding. That's not passivity, that's wisdom. Because surrender is not weakness. It's alignment with a higher intelligence. It's stepping aside so that something far more intelligent, far more creative, and far more powerful than your conscious mind can take over. You align with infinite possibility when you stop fighting the moment, when you stop projecting your fear into the future, when you stop rehearsing worst-case scenarios. Because those patterns are just feedback loops of the past, and the past cannot create something new. Only the present moment holds that power. The now is your access point to the quantum field. And the more you're present, the more you align. And the more you align, the more doors open. Doors you didn't plan for, didn't anticipate, couldn't have predicted. Because now, you're no longer in control. You're in flow. And how do you enter that flow? Through daily practice, through gratitude, Gratitude for what already is and gratitude for what is coming even before it arrives. Because gratitude is the emotional signature of already receiving. When you feel grateful before the evidence appears, you are signaling to the field, I believe, I trust, I already know it's done. That signal draws new realities to you. That signal collapses probabilities into form. That signal brings you into resonance with outcomes far beyond what your plans could ever create. You also align through presence. Presence quiets the mind. It dissolves the noise. It brings you into communion with the field. When you're present, you're not reacting to life. You're creating it. Your energy becomes steady, clear, directed, and the universe responds to that kind of coherence with acceleration. That's when things speed up, not because you're doing more, but because you're aligned more often. And of course, you align through surrender, real surrender, the kind that doesn't give up, but gives in to the flow, gives in to the intelligence that has been orchestrating life since before you were born. Surrender says, I've done my part, I've felt the elevated emotion, I've visualized the future, I've become the version of myself who is already living that life, and now I release it. I trust the field to handle the how, because it always does. And that's the shift. You stop being the controller, and you start being the creator. You stop managing life, and you start magnetizing it. You stop forcing, and start allowing. And the more you allow, the more magic unfolds. So here's the truth. The less you control, the more you align with infinite possibility. The more you align, the more you broadcast a clear, coherent signal. And that signal tells the universe exactly what to bring you. Not because you shouted it, not because you stressed over it, but because you became it. You became the person who already has it. You became the version of you who doesn't need to chase because they're already in harmony with the field. Letting go isn't giving up. It's stepping aside so something greater can step in. And what steps in isn't random. It's not chance. It's the echo of your own energy returning home. It's the reflection of your own alignment crystallizing into form. Most people don't realize that it's not their desires that block them from creating change. It's their attachment to those desires. When you're attached, you grip, you fixate, you hold tightly to a specific outcome. And that grip, although subtle, is laced with fear. Fear that if you don't hold on, it will slip away. But here's the paradox. The more tightly you hold on, the less space you give the universe to work. Energy doesn't move in contraction. It flows in openness, in spaciousness, in trust. Attachment is not love. Attachment is fear of loss. Fear that if you're not in control, you'll miss your moment. But detachment, real detachment, is not about not caring. It's not about withdrawing. It's about being so in alignment, so trusting of the field, that you don't need to micromanage every detail. Because when you're truly aligned, you know the universe is already orchestrating it all. You don't chase outcomes. You become the energy that attracts them. Your internal world is not isolated from the external world. They are reflections of each other. The universe mirrors back the frequency you emit. If your frequency is fear, the field responds with experiences that validate that fear. If your frequency is trust, the field begins to shift reality to meet that vibration. But most people don't realize this, and they focus on what's not here, what's missing, what they want, and they stay energetically stuck in the vibration of lack. And lack does not produce abundance, it only magnifies separation. That's why detachment is so powerful, because detachment says, I no longer place my sense of self in what I can't yet see. Detachment says, I trust that what I've asked for already exists in the field, and my job is to align, not to control. And as soon as you stop reaching from lack and start radiating from presence, something begins to shift. Subtly at first, quietly, like the first breeze before a storm. But it's there, and it's real. Because energy shifts precede material shifts. You don't wait for reality to change and then feel different. You feel different, and then reality changes. That's how the quantum field works. It doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your signal. And that signal isn't based on how badly you want something. It's based on who you're being, moment by moment, breath by breath. Think of reality like soft clay, constantly reshaping itself around the fire of your inner state. If that fire burns with fear, impatience, or control, the clay hardens in rigid, predictable forms. But if that fire burns with calm, trust, and inner coherence, the clay becomes fluid, malleable, ready to mold into something entirely new. You're shaping the world not with your hands, but with your energy. That's the real work. That's the deeper mastery. Detachment is not the absence of intention. It's the refinement of it. It's the evolution of desire into trust. It's when you say, I know what I want. I've felt it, I've become it, and now I release it. Not because I don't care, but because I care enough to trust the process. Because when you detach, the field finally has room to breathe. It has space to move. And often, it begins to deliver what you asked for in ways you could never have planned with your limited mind. But for that to happen, you have to let go of needing it to look a certain way. You have to release the rigid picture in your head and surrender to the intelligence that can see 1,000 more possibilities than you can. You have to stop forcing the puzzle pieces together and let the field rearrange the board. This is how true transformation happens, not through struggle, through surrender. Let me give you an example. A woman once came to one of my workshops, desperately wanting to heal a condition she'd carried for years. She meditated every day, visualized the outcome, rehearsed the emotions of her future. But underneath all that effort, she was still attached to the result, attached to a timeline, attached to needing it now. And her body felt it, the pressure, the stress, the subconscious fear that it might not work. And so the field stayed silent. Until one day, something in her cracked open. She was meditating, and instead of reaching, she let go. She stopped trying to make it happen. She stopped needing it to be different. She dropped into gratitude, not for a result, but just for being, for breath, for the moment. And in that surrender, her body shifted. The energy moved, and her condition, one that had baffled doctors, began to dissolve. Not because she forced the outcome, but because she finally gave the field space to move. This is not unique. I've seen it over and over again. The moment people detach, truly detach, is the moment the intelligence of the universe begins to respond, because now they're no longer creating from separation. They're creating from wholeness. Here's the quantum truth. The field doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're equal to. It arranges outcomes based on your emotional vibration, not your desire, not your will, but your state of being. So if your state is impatience, the field gives you more time to wait. If your state is lack, the field confirms that lack. But if your state is already whole, already grateful, already in love with life, then the field mirrors that abundance right back to you. So detach, not as an escape from life, but as a deep trust in life. Detach like the sky releases the storm, not with fear, with surrender, with wisdom, with calm assurance that the storm will serve its purpose and pass, because it always does. Your job is not to manipulate the wind. Your job is to adjust your sail, and that sail is your energy, your attention, your presence. The more coherent you become, the more fluid reality becomes around you. Not because you're changing the world outside, but because you've changed what you're broadcasting. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means power, the kind of power that doesn't need to prove anything, that doesn't panic, that doesn't grasp. It just knows. And that knowing, that frequency, is what bends reality. Remember, you can't fake alignment. You can't pretend to trust while holding on inside. The field reads your vibration, It senses your truth. And when that truth is rooted in faith, in wholeness, in elevated emotion, the world begins to rearrange. Things fall away that no longer serve, doors open that once seemed locked, people show up, circumstances shift, and it happens not because you controlled it, but because you aligned with it. So what would it feel like right now to stop gripping, to stop chasing, to let go of the need to know? What if you allowed the field to surprise you? What if you allowed your life to be guided by something greater than your fear? You are not here to push the river. You are here to become the kind of person the river flows toward, and that requires trust. Not blind trust, but embodied trust. Trust that is felt in the heart, in the breath, in the calm space between thoughts. Sow detachment, trust, and then watch. Watch what begins to shift. Watch how reality starts to mold itself, not around your demands, but around your frequency. Watch how you begin to meet new versions of yourself, versions who are no longer defined by struggle, but by surrender, by coherence, by alignment. Because when you detach and trust, the field has room to move. Your job is not to figure it all out. Your job is to shift your energy. And when your energy shifts, reality has no choice but to follow.